Every build has a beginning. This town started as something incomplete, and today it's still incomplete. As you wander the streets, you'll come across dead ends, odd exits, and a few empty buildings. Those imperfections are still here because this place wasn't built to be finished. It was built to be worked on. Hi, I'm Klaus, and welcome to Meadow Town. Most of us don't struggle with building because we lack ideas. We struggle because it feels like what we make has to be good. We don't always give ourselves permission to make mistakes. Meadow Town didn't start as a plan, it started as a place to practice, and by letting it stay unfinished, it kept growing. In fact, everything began right here with just 2 walls. All I wanted to do was to practice building a couple facades, one with stone, another with wood. I didn't know it at the time, but this was the first step to becoming a better builder. Once the 2 facades were complete, I realized I might actually have something here. But what could these buildings be? Giving a build an identity gives it direction. It doesn't have to be a workshop or a kitchen, it could be a store, a home, or in this case, a club and a tavern. With that identity in mind, I was able to complete each structure, though you'll probably notice they're far from perfect. The roof of the Explorers Club is a total mess, and the backside of the tavern is, well, a blank canvas? And that's kind of the point. Meadow Town wasn't about getting things right, it was about learning what worked and what didn't. In one big example, that meant getting my feet soaked. So once those first 2 buildings were finished, well, I just kept on building. We're never really ready. We start, we struggle, we figure things out, we get a little better, then we do it again. With each new structure, there was a chance to try something new. A new shape, a different roof line, a slightly better facade than the last. Over time, I stopped thinking about the individual buildings and started thinking about the street itself. How it might feel when it was crowded, how people would move through it, and how the space would be used. I wasn't following a plan. Instead, the town was starting to suggest what came next, and eventually, it wanted more than just a street. Expanding wasn't about more buildings, it was about a different way of thinking. I started paying attention to how buildings relate to each other and what happens between them. A town square isn't about the buildings around it, it's about what they create together. It becomes a focal point, a place to gather, to pause, and to get your bearings. Markets and monuments make sense in a place like this. And that way of thinking shaped everything around it. I started to realize it was important for the buildings here to share a similar presence. They They needed to feel established and official, but not like copies of one another. Each building still had room to express itself, just without competing for attention. That gave me a chance to work with materials and techniques I hadn't used much before. Stone pillars, covered walkways, large glass windows. I kept experimenting with each new building. Together, they help frame the square without pulling focus away from it. And once I started thinking that way, the bigger picture came into focus. It was no longer just about where a building sat, but how you moved between them. What street, alley, or stairway carried you from one place to the next. Beyond the town center, the hillside begins to rise from the water. This is where everything I'd learned started to come together. The streets tighten here. Alleys narrow, stairways climb, and the paths overlap as they work their way uphill. Building on a slope meant letting go of symmetry. Shared walls became practical, facades stopped lining up, and angles changed as the terrain demanded it. Instead of fighting that, I leaned into it. I used elevation to guide movement, narrow passages to control pacing, and irregular shapes to make the town feel lived in rather than planned. It's quieter here, more intimate. Hillside became less about individual buildings and more about how experience, terrain, and movement could work together. After Hillside, I stepped away from Meadow Town to work on other projects, but the way I thought about building had already changed. Even as I worked elsewhere, the lessons from this place kept showing up in quiet ways. The experience of Hillside helped to shape the narrow pathways of Riverside. The town square informed the courtyards of Forest Keep, and the techniques mastered in Lower Town are the foundation of Driftwood and the mine. It wasn't until much later that I returned here, with fresh eyes and a better understanding of what this town had been teaching me all along. I was always capable of building. I just needed a place to begin. If you enjoyed this video, don't thank me. Thank these amazing folks who support the channel. And if you'd like to wander the streets and alleys of Meadow Town, then the World File is available for download on Patreon. I've got something very special planned next. I don't want to tell you what it is, but I think you're going to like it. Thanks for stopping by. I'll see you next time.